Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters and viewers of Ikra TV. Welcome to another edition of Real Talk. I'm your host Iqbal Bana. As I keep saying to you every week, I come into your homes as a guest. I hope you welcome me with open arms and to try and sort of bring to you issues which affect our community on a regular basis, sometimes on a day-to-day basis as we did during the height of the pandemic. But sometimes, occasionally, things happen that really resonate with some families because of the effect of those issues that affect them in personal ways. And I try and bring people to my program who can share with us some information, some knowledge, and give us some advice and guidance that if you're being affected by some of these issues, for example, if it's health, education, social services, housing, Islamophobia, what we should be doing and how we should be tackling some of those issues. But I also bring people who are responsible for delivering those services, trying to make sure that they provide the right answers, that they actually tell us exactly what they're doing or they're not doing, so we can challenge them, we can question them, and people like yourselves at home can actually ring in and also put your questions to them as well. Today I want to touch on a very important subject which has unfortunately affected many families across the nation, not just in our region but across the whole of the nation over the last few years in particular. And that is unfortunately tragedies that occur when people are enjoying our beautiful outdoors, the countryside and the rivers and the canals that we have abundantly in this part of the world. 2 years ago we had a real tragedy in the Dewsbury area where two young teenagers with their families had gone out to enjoy a day's outing, went into the water and sort of near Southport, Blackpool, and the tide came in so fast that they were all overwhelmed by it. Although they were supposed to be very good swimmers, but unfortunately the tide overtook them. May Allah give them the highest place in Jannah and their families sabr. And today we've heard that in the last few weeks we had a real tragedy in the Bradford area where a father and son had gone to enjoy a day out in the countryside, and unfortunately the son fell down the cliff and lost his life. Again, may Allah bless him, give him the highest place in Jannah, and his parents and the rest of his family sabr at during this very difficult time. These tragedies unfortunately occur quite regularly despite many attempts to try and educate our communities. And it doesn't just happen in our communities, it happens in all communities. A few weeks ago we had a tragedy in Wakefield where one young man went into the canal, a river, and unfortunately found himself in difficulties. Sometimes it's very tempting. As the weather improves, we saw these tragedies actually happen during the height of the very severe heat wave that we had. And we've got another one coming up this week as well. The predictions are that we'll be in the mid-30s again. And so again, I can just imagine people going out into the Lake District, into the Dales, wanting to enjoy the day out, tempted by the waters, the waterfalls and the rivers and the canals, wanting to take a dip or taking a walk at the edge of a cliff and trying to see the scenery. But again, sometimes we fail to understand how some of the hidden dangers that lie there. Even sometimes the best of the swimmers get overwhelmed by some of the undercurrents, the currents that run underneath. Everything at the top looks very calm and very peaceful, but underneath we don't realize that there are some real currents running around that could actually be extremely dangerous. So I have today with me a very good friend of mine, Muhammad Dalish. I always have difficulty pronouncing that name. He has been on this program before to talk about other subjects, but he has come to my program before to talk about safety and and being safe and well in the countryside, in the Dales, enjoying it, and at the same time trying to make sure that we understand the deep dangers that exist over there. Muhammad, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to my program. It's nice to see you after a while. You haven't changed. No. I've lost all my hair, but you look younger day by day. It must be the countryside you live in. Maybe I should be moving there.
Walaikum salam. Yeah, it must be the countryside.
It must be that fresh air.
Living near so close to Lake District.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be that. But no, walaikum salam. And
welcome. I mean, welcome. You are the sort of equality and diversity and recruitment manager, inclusion manager in Cumbria, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
And you work very closely with the fire and rescue services and the police and other institutions over there as well. Now, do you see more and more about people coming into those areas? I mean, when I went there in the beginning, maybe 20 years ago, it was very rare to see, people of color, particularly from the Muslim community. But I know that now more and more people are exploring the countryside, and the beautiful, amazing sites that we have, the countryside that we have. The Lake District is a fantastic place. Do you see more and more people coming into that part of the world now?
Yes, definitely. And I think people have always gone there for many, many years. But I think the pandemic saw a change in people's sort of the whole staycation element, where for 2 years you couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't go abroad. So a lot of people came locally to the Dales, to the Lake District, to the Peak District, and so on. And that sort of carried on. We've got organisations like Muslim Hikers who take Muslim groups out and beyond, to some of these locations in Snowdonia, in Peak District, in the Dales. Last month they were in the Lake District. So yes, lots of people are coming out, and also families are coming out on their own, and individuals are coming out just to enjoy the fresh air and the beauty of the countryside that Lake District, the Yorkshire Dales, offers us.
Yes, I mean my nephew and niece went over last week to the Lake District, and they'd never been there before, and they came on their way back home. They live in the Midlands. On their way back home, they sort of popped into my house and said, Uncle, on the way down, can we just pop in? And I was asking them about the Lake District, and they were near Windermere, and they were saying it was absolutely amazing. And they have actually made up their mind to say this is going to be now a go-to place, every other year. So I mean, if you haven't been, which I'll be surprised if you haven't been, and I'm sure many of my viewers would have been. And no, it's not just the Lake District, but we talk about the Lake District because we are close to the Lake District. I mean, there are parts of Scotland and Wales and Yorkshire Dales and Derbyshire Dales, etc. The Peak District, equally amazing and beautiful as well. But yeah, we are seeing more and more people going there, as you say. And you talked about Muslim Hikers. Obviously, these are organised groups where, and I know Muslim Sisters. There's a
whole range of there's a whole range of groups. There's Wanderless Women, which is a Muslim women's group.
Right.
There's a whole range of different groups.
What do they call themselves?
Wanderless Women.
Wanderless Women.
Yeah.
That sounds quite exotic at times.
Yeah. So there's all these different groups that have emerged over the last 2 or 3 years. Where there's other groups, Black Girls Hike, Steppers UK, which are all sort of encouraging those communities to go out and enjoy the outdoors. And there's Happy Hikers. There was a group in Blackburn, again, that predominantly took Muslim women out for walks every week. Right. So there's many groups.
So there is more and more activity taking place. Yeah. I mean, I presume that's also mainly for health reasons as well, that people want to get better. I mean, I've actually been doing that 25 years ago. I'd probably be not much healthier than I am at the moment. But I mean, let's turn to the main issue, and that is, we have seen a lot of tragedies, unfortunately, over the last few years in particular, where we've lost a lot of young men and women, who want to enjoy this life, going out there and enjoy the lifestyle, and they're tempted by the water and the climbing up. And we had a tragedy in Bradford about 3 weeks ago as well, where this young man, as I say, went out with his father on a day trip. I think it was. I was not sure it was a day trip, but it was a trip out there, and unfortunately, the young man slipped and lost his life. And these they're occurring more and more. You work there day in, day out. Are we seeing more and more of these tragedies happening every day compared to what they were like 20, 30 years ago?
They're becoming, whether there's an issue, they're becoming more prominent now.
More prominent.
Because Mountain Rescue have got in touch with me and said, look, we're finding a few more call-outs coming through from different communities who are out walking, particularly, for example, in the Yorkshire Dales. And what we did with them is sort of looked at what was going on and made some simple videos to share with people. That just
we have one of those videos.
Yeah, we have one of those videos.
We'll show them in a while. Yeah.
Just to share in terms of, look, come and enjoy the countryside, but enjoy it safely. So it's things like knowing where you're going, what you're going to be doing, where you're going.
How important is the planning in this? I mean, sometimes people just pack a car and chalo nikal gaye, ghumne ke liye.
That's the important bit, because the weather higher up can be very different. So it could be nice and warm and 10, 15 degrees in the valley, and it could be nice and sunny, but as soon as you go up to a higher level, then the temperature drops and the weather can change drastically. And that's what you're going to be prepared for.
Right.
it could change at short notice.
Right.
So it's always worth checking the weather, not only lower down and where you're going, but also higher up on the mountains. So you can plan and you understand.
And is there a substantial difference in the weather, when you are sort of in the valleys, in the Lake District, say Windermere, around that area, Bowness, etc., and then you go up into the mountains? I mean, I remember going up once there, and it just rained for nearly most of the week.
And
right?
it can do.
Yeah.
It can rain very heavily, and it can be raining.
Oh, it absolutely came down.
It can be raining sort of straight into you.
Yeah.
So yes, it's about sort of knowing the weather conditions, but also sometimes you might think it's cloudy, but it's actually very beautiful at the top. So it's about sort of understand the weather forecast, but also knowing where you're going, so you know where you're going, how long it's going to take you. Also understanding the right gear and what you need, particularly for different weather conditions. For some conditions, it's all right if you're going to valley walk, basic footwear and so on, but if you're going higher up, you may need better footwear. And a lot of people are, if they, particularly in groups, they will always have some spare gear and so on. But if you're going on your own, it's worth considering, have you got the right gear? Do you know what the weather's going to be doing? And there are forecasts which are reasonably accurate now.
What are the basic things that people should have when they would decide to go out, into the countryside? Maybe. I mean, people like me would go to the countryside. We're not going to go trekking, I suppose. Unless you have an oxygen bottle at the top waiting for me. All right. I'll try it, but I doubt it. But yeah, what are the basics that you think people should have with them?
I think some of the basics are things like good walking shoes. Now, it depends on where you're going to walk. If you're just going in the valley, some basic walk, then you just probably need a good pair of trainers with some good grip on. If you're going more higher up, then you might probably need some walking shoes which had firmer grips. And if you're going a bit higher up, you might need some ankle support as well. So it's about thinking what sort of type of terrain you're going to walk in. And it depends on your experience as well. The other thing is having good clothes and waterproofs, because you don't know what the weather's going to do. So always carry some sort of waterproofs with you. So if it does rain, you know you're going to protect yourself from the rain. Depends how far you're going to go. If you're going to go really high up and for a 10, 15 mile walk, then you may need different type of gear.
That'll be my dreams, I think.
And it's about sort of planning. And sometimes the weather could be really good. I and a friend did a walk in May. We walked Hadrian's Wall, which is 84 miles over 6 days. Now, fortunately, alhamdulillah, the weather was beautiful except for one day. The one day we walked on the second day, it just rained all day from start to finish. Now, because we had good waterproofs, we were bone dry inside. But if we didn't have good waterproofs, we would be soaking wet and really sort of down. But because we had the gear, good walking shoes, waterproofs, we didn't have a problem. We just made sure we walked the walk, got to the other end.
In terms of, obviously sustenance. It's all right having waterproofs and good gear, but if you're going to do a sort of a trek of 4 or 5 miles, which might just be possible for somebody like me, what sort of sustenance should you be carrying with you?
I think having just your packed lunch, having your packed lunch, cereal bars, fruit, and having
high
water.
in sugar and protein.
Yeah, and having water. Fluid is really important, particularly in hot weather. With the weather becoming hot, is having good hydration.
Hydration, yes.
Hydration is really important. So having water, so you can keep your hydration levels up, because if you dehydrate, then that's going to be a challenge for you as well. So making sure you're fueled up with water.
And that's really good advice. But in terms of, obviously, you can be the best prepared person, but sometimes something happens and
accidents
something goes
happen.
wrong. Yeah, and accidents happen. Sod's law, is that it happened. But so what you have you said you have some videos which tell people what to do in the event of something happening that they were not expecting. So we're going to show this short video. It's in Urdu, which Mohammed and his colleagues have made, which is trying to help people understand what they need to do in the event of them finding themselves in a difficult situation. So let's show the video, and then we'll come back and discuss some more about other sort of more severe incidents that may occur.
Yeah, I love it. I love the outdoors.
It's a fantastic little way to kind of spend your weekend.
आप आए यॉर्कशायर में चलने के लिए अपने फ्रेंड्स और फैमिली के साथ, अगर कुछ हो जाए, खो जाए या चोट आए तो आप क्या करें? फिक्र ना करो, माउंटेन रेस्क्यू है, वो आपकी मदद करेंगे। याद रखो कि आपका मोबाइल फ़ोन रखो आपके साथ फुली चार्ज्ड, और बेहतर है कि आपके पास एक वायर हो, और ये उसका नाम है पावर बैंक। ओके, ये है, उसमें चार्ज करो, फिर आपकी बैटरी पूरी होगी मदद करने के लिए। अगर आपके ग्रुप के साथ हो तो याद रखो कि एक आदमी उसका फ़ोन चार्ज करके फ़ोन ऑफ करके रखे अगर ज़रूरत हो तो। फ़ोन करो 999 को। अगर सिग्नल ना मिले तो पहाड़ के ऊपर जाओ, उधर सिग्नल ज़्यादा अच्छी मिलती है। जब वो 999 आंसर फ़ोन करे तो याद रखो कि उसको पूछो कि पुलिस चाहिए, उसको बताओ कि हम माउंटेन रेस्क्यू चाहिए, और उसको बताओ क्या प्रॉब्लम है, आप किधर हो, वहाँ रखो और सब्र करो, वो आपको लेने आ जाएंगे।
I hope you found that video interesting and useful, because obviously there's a very serious message behind that. As Mohammed, my guest, is saying, and as we know, that people enjoy the countryside and enjoy going over there, but occasionally things do go wrong. So if you do go, may Allah keep you all safe and well. But in case anything untoward happens, then I hope you remember what you heard in the video there. Mohammed, coming back, what are the sort of main areas of concern around? Was it the water? Is it the hiking, injuries from walking, etc.? What are the main areas of concern for people like you who work in that area?
I think for us, there isn't a concern in coming out and enjoying
the
countryside.
When something goes
but
wrong,
the concern is being prepared. So when people come out, knowing what's happening is knowing where you're going, knowing what walk you're going to do, what sort of, are you fit as well? Because sometimes people will attempt something knowing that they may not be able to do it. Other times you are fit, as you said, you might do a 3 or 4 mile walk, but you couldn't do a 15-mile walk. So it's about knowing your limits as to what you can walk, how high you can go. So as long as you know your limits, that also helps, because if you push yourself beyond your limits.
And do you find that quite often, that people come with good intention and then they go there in the hope that they're going to do, climb the 3 peaks, but then they find themselves in trouble? Is that something that happens?
That can sometimes happen. People overestimate their fitness levels. But sometimes people come and just sit by the lake or by a waterfall and just enjoy the scenery and have a picnic, and that's fine as well, because there's different ways of enjoying the outdoors in the countryside. You don't have to go for a walk, you don't have to go for a swim, but you can sit on the lake shore and have a picnic with the family, or you can sit by a waterfall and have a picnic by the family. But that's knowing your limitations. But also you might want to explore and maybe do a low-level walk around a lake, which is straightforward, simple, no height gain, and you know where you're going, and very good footpaths. You don't need really good footwear for that. A good pair of trainers. Good pair of trainers will do, and basic general clothing. But if you are going to, again, there is no sort of set type of clothing you have to wear. I remember we did a walk a few years ago in Yorkshire Dales and also in the Peak District a few years before that, where we encourage people to wear their own cultural clothes. So people from Africa wore African clothes, people wore shalwar kameez and those sort of things. So again,
there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're comfortable and you know what your fitness levels were. So I wore a shalwar kameez and walked up in the Peak District. So it's about sort of understanding your limitations. So there is no sort of rule that you have to wear certain gear.
I mean, shalwar kameez is a very comfortable outfit anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
But
it's about sort of, we wanted to sort of make a point that it's about our culture and people from all cultures can enjoy the outdoors.
And I mean,
nature.
how, I mean, obviously, until 30, 40 years ago, when we walked into the White Lake District, we were strangers. We were looked upon as strangers. Ye kahan se aap rahe bhai? I mean, is that thing changing? Do you perceive that change taking place?
I moved to the Lake District back in 2002, I think it was.
Lucky you.
So I've been there over 20 years now.
Right.
And when I wandered around, you hardly saw anybody. Now I go out into the Lake District I see lots and lots of people from a whole range of different backgrounds and communities coming out and enjoying the Lake District. Or if I go to the Yorkshire Dales, whether you go to somewhere like Malham Cove, it's really popular.
I think Malham Cove is very popular. It's not too far away from here.
Yeah, it's not too far away from here.
Yeah.
Very, very popular with lots of different groups. And yes, it's a nice 3-hour walk, as long as you know what you're doing and where you're going.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter came from America a few weeks ago with my grandson and her friend, and they went to Malham Cove, and they were saying they really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And that's one place I haven't been to. Inshallah,
It's
inshallah,
really,
very soon I'm going to be. I'm hoping to go very soon. But yeah, but I mean, again, we are going to be going for a break. I mean, when you come back, can we talk about the emergency services, the type and level of support that they provide, because they're vital in this in this issue, because people find themselves in trouble, then they ring, and they don't know what they're going to get. And the Mountain Rescue Service is a mainly voluntary-led service.
It is, it's very.
I mean, they do a fabulous job, invaluable role that they play. So let's talk about that as well. But also the environment. We are responsible for our environment. How do to manage the environment? When you go there, it's fine going there, but we have a responsibility to make sure Islam is very important on the environment and looking after the environment. So let's touch on some of those subjects. When we come back. I hope you found the first segment of this Real Talk interesting. We're going to, as I say, we're going to come back to this, and I'm hoping that some of our people who've been to the Lake District and who use the services, hopefully not the emergency services, but the area, will be able to ring in as well and share some of their thoughts as well. I hope you have been able to go there. You have seen amazing places in this part of the world. Also, as I say, in other parts of the country as well, and that we all need to share this environment with ourselves and our fellow neighbours as well. So don't go away. Inshallah, we'll be back soon. Have a cup of tea, coffee. We'll see you soon, inshallah. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.